Once again, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. We have worked really hard on compiling a report of collective impact Lincoln over the first 3 years of the project. So we got started in 2017. So this runs from that first year all the way through the end of the fiscal year of 2022, so the end of June. And we wanted to compile this report so we could just share out with our residents in the neighborhoods that we work in what we did over those first 3 years and all of the amazing connections that we've built, the partnerships that we've built, the awesome projects that you all have done and made possible. And so we just want to really highlight all of the amazing things that have happened and share some of the really relevant canvassing data that our organizers received over those first 3 years of deep canvassing at the doors and at different events and some static locations. So what I'm going to do to start things off is I'm going to have the CIL team go around and we can introduce ourselves a little bit and just kind of say who you are and what you do. And then if everyone else on the call wants to just in the chat, introduce yourself, maybe say your name, what neighborhood you live in, even if it's not one of the 6 CIL focused neighborhoods, and maybe what communities you feel connected to. Or organizations that you work for or volunteer with. We just want to get to know each other a little bit during this hour and a half that we're talking with one another. So I'll kick things off. My name is Nancy Petito. I'm the Director of Collective Impact Lincoln, and I'm housed over at Civic, Nebraska. And my pronouns are she and her. And so this, I'll just tell you a little bit about working on this report. It's been a long time. We got started on it last August, and I've been working with the Public Policy Center at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln to get all of the data in order. Because like I said, the organizers were on the ground, knocking on doors those first 3 years and talking to folks and having over 15,000 conversations. So as you can imagine, it's a lot of information to look through, and I don't have the expertise. I will fully admit that, to analyze all of those different components. So the Public Policy Center, we got to give them a shout out because they did an incredible job of breaking all that data down and presenting it to us in a way that we could then share it out with all of you. So I'm going to just pass it over to Mika if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. I'm Mika Takamori. I use she, hers, and I am housed at Nebraska Appleseed. And I will pass it to Casey.
Hi, I'm Casey Ogle. I'm the staff attorney for Collective Impact Lincoln. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I was just looking up to try to figure out what my neighborhood is. I'm not sure that actually where I live has a name for the neighborhood, but I live very near the Autumn Wood neighborhood, and I'm happy to be here. I'll pass it to Isabel.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at the South of Downtown Community Development Organization, and I've been with the project since the very beginning. So the last year has looked so much more different than the first 3 years, but I'm just so excited that things are opening back up and that we can start getting out in the community again and just like making connections with people. So I'll throw it over to Vic.
Hey, I'm Vic. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a community organizer, housed at Nebraska Appleseed as well. Excuse me. And I currently live in the Witherbees neighborhood. Almost. I live on the other side of the street, where it ends, but I have just decided to ingratiate myself, and so I just told them I'm one of them anyway. Yeah. And I joined the CIL project in late 2019. So I had kind of like 3 months-ish, because there were a lot of holidays before the pandemic. So most of my engagement with all y'all has been digital. Cool, and I will pass to Christy.
Hi everyone, my name is Christy Yang. I use she, her pronouns. I am a community organizer at the South of Downtown Community Development Organization. My main initiatives are with Get Out the Vote and programming. And I joined I joined the CIL team just a few months ago, so I'm still relatively new, but I'm excited to be here. And I live in the near South neighborhood, but just on the edge of like South of Downtown. I'm gonna pass it to Allie.
Hi, my name is Allie Christensen and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a community organizer at South of Downtown CDO and I currently live in University Place, but next week I'm moving to Everett. I'm so excited because I started out as a volunteer canvasser with Isabel. So it's been over 3 years of me wanting to live in the neighborhood and now I finally will. And I'm gonna pass it to Kieran.
Hey y'all, I'm Kieran. I use she, her pronouns. I'm housed at Civic, Nebraska, and I work in the University Place and Hartley neighborhoods. I live in the Antelope Park neighborhood myself, and I actually started in August when this report's data was being collected. So I'm really interested to read about it and hear about it as well.
Awesome. That's the CIL team. So thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a little bit so we can give a little bit of a just overview. First, I'm seeing some new faces, some folks that maybe aren't as familiar with Collective Impact Lincoln and what we do, which is great. It's part of the point of this whole thing. So just a brief overview, Collective Impact Lincoln, we are a partnership of 3 different organizations, nonprofit organizations. So Civic Nebraska, Nebraska Appleseed, and the South of Downtown Community Development Organization. And so what do? We just are here to support neighborhood community conversations, leadership, and action opportunities to try to create a more vibrant and inclusive place to live. We really believe in resident-led change. We're here to support folks in the 6 neighborhoods, to offer guidance or advice, just to try to get some of these things off of the ground. But you know, we don't want to say what needs to happen. And that's really the crux of this work and how it all got started with those door-to-door conversations with the deep canvassing. Organizers had 20-minute, 45-minute, hour-long conversations with folks to better understand what was happening in the neighborhoods, what were some of the goals or things that you wanted to see changed. And that's really how this all got started. And so from there, from just listening and from having conversations, we built relationships and we got to know folks and we got to know some of the things that people wanted to do. So from there, we help support neighborhood projects. And there are some incredible projects that we'll talk about that have happened over the first 3 years of the project and now even into year 4. We provide leadership trainings. So this is just an example of one of those leadership trainings. We call them community builder workshops, and we get together usually on a Saturday morning for a couple of hours. We use the asset-based community development model. So we identify all the assets that we have in our neighborhoods, but then identify goals. What are some of the things you want to achieve and come together with your community to build on so that things can be a little bit more vibrant, sustainable, and just long lasting for the residents. We develop and just frankly support various action committees. There's some folks here tonight from the Clinton Neighborhood Organization or the University Place Community Organization. And so we generally, our organizers either attend those meetings and provide some kind of logistical support, or they serve on the boards, or they're just there to, you know, talk and observe and figure out what things can move forward that the groups want to be able to provide. Renters Together is an incredible action committee in the South of Downtown neighborhood that advocates for renters' rights. And the CDO crew has been a part of that since its inception and really been essential in moving some of those initiatives forward. And those residents work super hard to bring housing justice to the forefront and work on city level and state level policy. And that leads us to the last point of what CIL is here to do, and that's to advocate for systemic change through policy advocacy. Casey, who's on the call, our staff attorney at Appleseed, researches so many different policy initiatives and what we can do to maybe make some of those policy changes happen at either the city or the state level, whichever makes the most sense for our work. And so I already said this, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, share your name and your pronouns and maybe what organization or community you're connected with. And if you notice someone else on the call that you want to connect with, either on the CIL team or just another participant, feel free to reach out to us or message that person, and we can keep the conversation going after this workshop. So this brings us to our next portion of the workshop today. We shared out the report. It's there for you to read through. I don't want to go through it line by line, but I just want to give a overview of what's included. Again, we wanted to provide this report. It probably doesn't look like a report that you've seen before, maybe from other agencies or organizations, because we want it to be for the residents. We want it to be for the neighbors and the neighborhoods that we work in. And so when I was working on this and collecting all of this data, it was really data heavy. There was a lot of information that, we had to pare down and focus on. And it's all definitely relevant, but we wanted to be able to say, here's what we heard, or here's what we found. This is what we did with it. Did we get it right? We want to make sure that we are actually fulfilling the mission and vision of Collective Impact Lincoln, and that's to listen to the residents in the neighborhoods and then move those things forward. So we give an overview of CIL. We talk about the main initiatives that we work on with our neighbors and in our neighborhoods, and that's the leadership development, neighborhood revitalization, grassroots community engagement, and policy advocacy. And then we do provide some of those deep canvassing data highlights that focuses on the strengths in the neighborhoods, what people like the most, what are some of the concerns, and then we break it down by different policy initiatives or policy level things that we've heard from folks. And then we focus on those 4 pillars a little bit more in depth and provide a little bit more information on each of those. And we talk about what can we do next? What are we going to do in this second phase of the project? Like I said, we are in year 4. We received additional funding to do this work for another 3 years. So after this year, we'll have 2 left. And that's a lot of time to get some more things done. But we want all of you to look at this report and then tell us, did we get it right? What did we miss? What are some of the things that maybe you brought up to Isabel in 2017 when she knocked on your door, and maybe we got a little bit down the road and we made some headway on it, but it stalled or it got stagnant, or we need to revisit it, or we need to just come back in a different way with a new perspective because so much can change over 3 years. So we want to hear those things from you all. So what did we do in the first 3 years? I have to highlight this because we have to brag a little bit about all the awesome things that we've been able to accomplish together. Our organizers had over 15,000 conversations, either at the doors or at events or at Educare, where the Appleseed organizers posted up for however many hours and talked to parents when they were dropping off and picking up their kiddos. We hosted 12 community builder workshops. The last few of those were, we've been doing things virtually now for the last year, and that was a big change, but we were able to pivot pretty quickly and still provide these trainings to our best ability. We help support 34 neighborhood projects, which is just absolutely incredible. Equally supported 30 action committees. We either hosted or co-hosted 276 events, and 962 surveys were completed. So that means of all the doors knocked and deep canvassing conversations, sometimes you knock on a door, people don't want to talk to you or they're not home, but 962 people were willing to speak with us and to actually complete a survey, which is where we got all of that useful data so we could move our work forward. Okay, so here we have a little interactive slideshow, and I'm going to have Mika help me out with this. This is a little new for us. We're trying to learn some new ways to facilitate these workshops so they're a little bit more interactive and not just me or one of the organizers talking at you for an hour and a half. So Mika's going to drop the link in the chat to either go to this slide and drag a star to one of these Post-it notes to say, where have you seen us, or how have you seen us over the first 3 or 4 years of this project? So you can either go into the PowerPoint yourself, or you can put in the chat where you want a star to go, and Mika or one of the other organizers can put that star on a Post-it for you. So, or you can unmute and tell us where you want it to go. That works too, because I think that we just want to know how and you can put multiple stars in multiple places. If we knocked on your door, or if you've been to a CBW, we want to see how you've been interacting with CIL over the last few years.
And Nancy, you might have to refresh your page. I see on my page that there are a lot of stars, which is very exciting for me.
That is awesome. Here, I'm going to do this. There we go. Very cool. I'm glad this is working. We weren't sure how this was going to pan out.
I think it's great that out of those 15,000 doors, no one here was one of those doors. So we have at least more doors to knock.
We do.
At least we know we have that work cut out for us.
Lots more doors to knock. All right. Well, is it not going to load for me now? There we go. Okay, so let's keep moving along here. Thanks for indulging us in that little exercise. Okay, so here's just a little bit of data that I wanted to pull out and make sure everyone saw if you didn't have time to look at the report ahead of time. So these two sets of graphs just kind of, these are the first two questions that we ask when we're going door to door and we're canvassing. What do you like best about your neighborhood, and what do you not like so much? And so this just breaks down across all 6 neighborhoods what people liked the best and what were some of the common concerns. So you can see here, the quality of life is very high. 58% of neighbors mentioned that was what they liked the best in their neighborhoods. And then it just sort of goes down, piece by piece. Placemaking, sense of community at 14%, schools at 8%, safety and housing both at 7%, public services 5%, employment 4%, and then some other kind of miscellaneous comment was 4%. And then talking about the common concerns, general safety being one of the highest concerns in the 6 neighborhoods that we focus on, public services right behind at 15%, crime and safety at 14%, housing 13%, transportation 11%, that placemaking again, sense of community at 10%, quality of life, so that correlates, that's good to know, 9%, and then other at 8%. So that just kind of breaks down those first 2 questions that we do have on the deep canvassing survey. And so based on that information, which there's a lot more data to look at in the report itself. So please, if you're interested in that, take the time to head over to the virtual platform, which I can't see the chat right now. So hopefully somebody dropped that link in there. Head over there and you can look at that data a little bit more in depth. So what can we do next? Based on everything that we heard over the first 3 years of the project, as a team, we decided we were going to focus on sort of these, and this isn't everything, this is just sort of what we put onto paper, but these 7 things kind of rose to the top for us. So highlighting the value of these neighborhoods by talking about their assets. Again, the great neighbors, the affordable homes, other amenities that might exist. That's what we want to focus on, and we want to continue to lift those things up however best we can. Providing opportunities for neighbors to engage with one another. One of the most common things that we heard in and out is definitely social connection, wanting to be more connected with one another across the neighborhoods. Encouraging policymakers, leaders, and police to positively engage with our neighbors and share information on community issues. We're going to continue our community builder workshops. I don't think those are going away anytime soon because we have lots more things to talk about and share about, so we can connect with each other, but also connect people to leadership opportunities, to becoming more engaged with our policymakers, our elected officials, so you know how to advocate for yourself and for your community. Partnering with local leaders and departments to improve housing conditions, address problem properties, improve conditions and costs for renters, and increase affordable housing, which you'll find out from the report has become one of our main policy focus throughout the CIL initiative. Improving access to the availability of fresh foods and grocery stores close to our neighborhoods, and then sharing information and resources relevant to the various needs and goals of residents across the neighborhoods. So those are the things that we're planning on doing. What are you most interested in seeing us do? So we've got another little interactive slide here. So drag a sun into one of these numbers. And if there's something not on this list that you want us to see, drag a sun there and then maybe post in the chat what you'd like us to focus on. And I'll probably have to refresh my screen again. There we go. I got to give props to Mika. This was her idea and it's so much fun and I love it. And I want to do it for every workshop now.
Another added bonus of it is like all the weird names that Google gives people who aren't like signed in, like anonymous mink.
Yes.
I'm seeing anonymous Dumbo octopus.
Okay. That's a new
So
one.
I don't know what a Dumbo octopus is, but I love it.
Seeing lots of suns in number 2. That's awesome. All right. So I've just got one more slide here that I want to go over. So the last element of all of this, we decided to create a roadmap. So many of the elements of our work correlates to one another. And what we came to realize is it all sort of revolves around this one issue of housing affordability. We saw housing affordability connecting to our neighborhood revitalization projects, connecting to our neighborhood safety, and the food access issues that we've heard about in so many of our neighborhoods, and also that social connection component. So what this roadmap displays is sort of how all of the elements of the work that CIL does is connected to one another. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, but we are all affected by this very, very large issue of housing affordability and adequacy. And so that's why it became the one policy issue that we focused on for the last few years and will likely continue to focus on going forward. That doesn't mean that we won't focus on other policy issues. As you can see from the data, there are other things that we heard in the neighborhoods. We just felt best poised to take this on because there were other agencies working on some of the other issues that we heard at the doors. And so we're going to continue this work. We're going to continue to do a lot of these different things that all connect to one another. And this roadmap just kind of helps us stay on track because there are so many elements to this work. It's easy to sort of veer off a little bit or to not be on the same path all of the time. And so this really kind of keeps us all connected to one another. And so we just want to be able to highlight some of these accomplishments that we've done, and then to be able to follow this roadmap going forward over the next few years as we continue this work. So I'm going to stop sharing because I really don't like not being able to see everyone. That was a lot of information. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask or to put them in the chat. The next portion of our workshop today, we're going to talk to 2 residents who are rock stars, but have been working with Collective Impact Lincoln really closely over the last few years and have just done some incredible things. And so I think I'm going to turn it over to Vic so we can hear about their experiences.
Yeah, I wanted to uplift Amanda. Sweet had asked some really good questions in the chat. And so if that's good, we'll save that. And I want to get into that and discuss that and any other questions that people have in a little while. We're going to highlight some resident work, but I thought those are both really good questions. So the first, I think I communicated this, but I think, so Karen, if it's good with you, we're going to talk about you first, and you're going to talk about you first. And then we'll get to hear from Ella about cool stuff that they have done as well. So Karen Lamb, if anyone has, or if anyone here has not had something that Karen has baked or cooked, I don't know that you actually ever have experienced a food that actually has like love in it. Like there is like love in the food. So she is amazing. And I'm just going to get started with like, tell us all a little bit about yourself. I feel like you are one of those people who do so much more than you ever talk about yourself. So where are you from? Did you grow up in Lincoln?
I did not. I am from the middle of Nebraska. I grew up in Cairo, not Cairo, but Cairo. Really small town. Everybody knew everybody. So, it was like just one neighborhood. The whole town is one neighborhood. Was lucky to be in a household with parents who understood the value of connections. We were not rich by any stretch of anyone's imagination, but we always found enough to help somebody that had less than we did. So that was instilled in me from ever. I don't remember ever not doing that.
Wow. And that makes sense. That origin for then what the rest of your life has been like. So I think that feeds into, you came to Lincoln, and from that point, I don't know when that was, tell me about the origins of Lulu's on N. What is Lulu's on N?
Well, Lulu's on N actually grew out of Serendipity's Cupcakes. If anybody remembers that, they were on North 27th Street. I have done a lot of things in my life, but always came back to food, to hospitality, to that ministry, really. So in 2014, I was between jobs, was doing some other things, had a small catering business out of our home. And a mutual friend said that the owner of Serendipity's Cupcakes was looking for a partner. And she had some very specific parameters about that partner that I fit. So I went and talked to her, and it wasn't long before we decided to go into business together. And then it wasn't very much longer that we decided we couldn't afford the rent where Serendipity's Cupcakes was housed. And so I had this idea, crazy, that if we had to move, we might as well find a place where we could open a restaurant, not only bake cupcakes, but do the whole thing. And so we found a place on North 48th Street. That's where we started. At 48th and Cornhusker, the place I referred to as the doomed location where no restaurant ever lasts, including Lulu's. We didn't stay there very long. Then I think it was a couple years, we moved downtown. First of all, we opened in the Wells Fargo building. There's a virtual closet. It's 88 square feet where we had a sandwich shop. And that's where we were when Barbara Bartle approached one of our employees and said, the corn popper is empty. and we need someone to move in there. Do you think your people would be interested? And after I got done squealing, I called her and we talked about it, and with some shrewd negotiations, we came to some terms that we felt we could live with, and we moved over there. And at that point, I had been wanting to implement some kind of program at our North 48th Street location where people that couldn't afford to pay could eat and do work to, to trade. Well, the Lancaster County Health Department doesn't allow that. So there's something we should work on. There's a policy issue. So when we moved downtown, I thought, well, here we are in the middle of a homeless population, in the middle of a group of people who need to eat. So we're going to try to feed them. And so to begin with, we took donations. So every $5 donation translated into a meal for someone who couldn't pay. And that's what we did for the first few years that we were there. Then my daughter Katie and I attended a community builder workshop, and we were lucky enough to be at a table with Nancy. And we, I heard a lot of information and took it all in and thought about it. And that must have been maybe August of 2018. I think so. Anyway, so then some things happened with the business. My partner at the time decided that he wasn't going to stay in the business anymore. So he left, and I had met with Nancy earlier after the workshop, and she had planted the idea in my head about expanding the community meal program. But my partner at the time did not buy into that at all. So I kind of shelved it. Well, then when he left, I had a vision, met with Nancy again, and decided that I would form a nonprofit that would be alongside the for-profit business, which is kind of a hybrid model, but we've made it work. And part of that is that no matter whether we had the donations to front the $5 for the meal, we just fed everyone who asked. And that was a lot of people.
What a wonderful, I just love having, knowing a lot of these folks in Lincoln and knowing just bits and pieces, but you could have gone into so much more detail and I just would have been riveted. So Lulu's is this business, and it does more than that. And you mentioned that kind of pivotal moment of realizing you could make it something more sustainably and try to meet this vision. How do you see that as a part of or contributing to CIL's mission of resident-led leadership? How do you feel that those things are?
Well, part of what we do, we like to say we feed the body and the soul. So part of what we do is the immediate need is, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in 3 days. I have to have something. We feed the immediate need. But as we've been listening to Nancy talking, we understand that there is a systemic issue or issues that are behind the hunger, whether, in our case, the people that we interact with, it's untreated mental illness, it's untreated addictions, it's, a number of things, the lack of affordable housing, there's just so many things. So what we also do is try to work behind the scenes on those issues. How can we advocate? How can we be better citizens and then help everybody?
And I remember being at Lulu's for either Thanksgiving or Christmas meal prep and you connected me with someone right there who you had heard a little bit of his story and you thought maybe, and that it was just this moment of connecting this person who you actually see in person and were consistently to notice, oh, this guy is new. He wasn't around here before, and then connecting him with more resources, which I think was just very small, but really important demonstration to me on how valuable you are and how the presence of Lulu's downtown is really essential to so that people don't slip through the gaps. Yeah, I'm sure we could talk for like an hour more about your mission and your food, and how much I look forward to the next time you can cater an event for us. But we're gonna, I think, shift over to Ella now. Ella, do you want me to make you a co-host now, or you're going to be sharing a screen, right?
Yeah, and I think I already have the capability of sharing screen.
Cool. So Ella Durham, who are you? Tell us a little about yourself. Are you from Lincoln?
I'm still asking myself that question. I was actually born in Arizona, but my family moved here when I was really young. I've lived in Lincoln most of my life. I'm currently in the Clinton neighborhood. I moved here in the late fall of 2019, but have also lived in Everett and near South mostly. And additionally, I've lived in a couple of small towns myself. Like pre-K, I lived in Wilbur, Nebraska, and then middle school and high school, I went to Crete. So that's kind of where I grew up. I was a first generation college student and a really young parent at the same time, but I had a really supportive family, and I went to school for graphic design and art, which seems like quite a leap, but I've been practicing as a graphic designer and web designer professionally for over 10 years, and I've just been involved in like various community-based projects and groups. I would say that when it comes to art, I really appreciate kind of like untangling or demystifying art. It's something that we engage in at like on a human level, every one of us. And so making it like accessible and working with and making community-based art is something that I get really excited by. So that's kind of part of what spurred what we're going to talk about was a CIL funded project, the People's Puppet Parade.
Awesome. And right before you get into that, I want to give a small anecdote from one of the first meetings that Ella came to for the Clinton Neighborhood Organization. We were talking about something like a website, design something, and Ella, a logo, that's right, before the beautiful logo that we have now is finalized. And Ella is new, and she mentions, oh, I'm a graphic designer. And I'm pretty sure everyone in that room, because we were still in person, was just like, oh, like they came, we have a graphic designer. So you've really given a lot to numerous places, even beyond People's Puppet Parade. But speaking of which, what is the People's Puppet Parade? Start wherever you want.
All right, yeah, so I felt like I couldn't really talk about this without showing pictures because it's just a lot easier to explain. And I also feel like I'm getting worse at Zoom as this goes on, which I just tried to share my screen and it says that it's been disabled for participant screen sharing.
That's a Nancy problem.
There I am. Okay.
I just made her a co-host. You should be good now.
All right, great, thank you. And let's see. Okay. All right, the People's Puppet Parade. How it started.
So I had a couple of friends who asked me if I wanted to go to what could be possibly the last May Day Parade that was happening in Minneapolis, which was May of 2019. And I hadn't heard of the May Day Parade there, but there are like a lot of folks in Lincoln who have ties to Minneapolis and like just ties to this event in particular and love it and will make a yearly trip out of going to the Minneapolis May Day Parade. Well, it was the first time I went and presumably possibly the last time a Minneapolis May Day Parade will happen again. But I was like immediately excited when I saw these floats that are all community built out of just like recycled and cheap materials. And have like messages that come from community voices to talk about things that residents really care about. So these are just like a small number of the thousands of pictures I probably took during that. But you can see like there's a range of issues that are brought up, and each year there was kind of a broad theme that community voices could kind of like propose their own floats for. So like the whole drive home from that, the few of us who went like just daydreamed about having a puppet parade in Lincoln. And we spent, I mean, like seriously 6 of the 7 hours of that drive just talking about it. And we kind of like ran with, let's see. Sorry, I think, okay, the slides just kind of tripped up on my end, but so we kind of like daydreamed about it. Then we got home and it kind of went to the wayside until during the like midsummer, I started just asking around here, and I realized that there are some puppeteers in town. Andrew Park, who works at who's the director of the Nebraska Repertory Theater, has experience in working with these like large scale street puppets, and so does his collaborator Jill. And I just kept kind of like putting this idea in people's minds that maybe we could have a ragtag DIY parade here, and things just really started falling in line. Like, okay, look, we have experienced puppeteers. Also, there were already events scheduled in the fall that were going to have like street closures, like Streets Alive. So that took away a lot of kind of that legwork and paperwork and closing up a street and even publicity. And so I guess what I'm just trying to say is that kind of like the summer of 2019 became a little bit of a whirlwind where all of these pieces started coming together, where it looked like it was actually going to work. And one of those pieces was a couple of the co-organizers and I applied for a CIL grant, and were approved for that. And it was able to cover like most of these materials are recycled or donated or repurposed, but some of the pieces that we needed equipment for to kind of like host some workshops and bring this all together. So I don't have a lot of documentation from this, but one of the things that is part of this process of the puppet parade is like having community conversations. So we have this bigger theme that we kind of threw out, like another world is possible. Around that, we had we had a couple of conversations where we called them like visioning sessions, community visioning sessions, where we talked about what does the world that you want to live in look like? And also logistically, how can we create things with repurposing and reusing things? There were a lot of like, this really extended into many different facets of the broader Lincoln community. So my son was going to arts and humanities at the time, and we were able to come in and do kind of a workshop with arts and humanities, and then they like picked up on the theme and ran with it and had some of their own conversations around issues that were important to them. And then we also hosted a series of workshops at the south of downtown building. And this is where like the collaboration piece comes in and learning. So here are Jill and Andy showing like this group of people who came in how to paper mache and make these puppets like really structurally sound. I think we had 8 workshops. We learned all kinds of different things, like banner painting. We did a t-shirt workshop, just a lot of like Skillshare, but also it was very kind of decentralized, as in people offering up something that they knew how to do, and then kind of showing it to others, and then everyone else kind of like picking up on that and building more upon it more. And so how it ended, I could kind of like, I also have some of these numbers, but I'm hoping this video will actually play instead. But like I said, there were a lot of people for something that kind of like started midsummer and in 2019, and then happened at Streets Alive, which I think was in the end of September of 2019. It was just incredible how many like different people intersected during this whole thing. Like the workshops were neat because people would like, there would be some consistent people who would come in for every one of them, a lot of neighborhood youth who would come in. And so just seeing relationships build throughout the time was a lot of fun. But there were like more than 50 community members that participated in public workshops. There were like over 60 people who came to like be in the parade itself. And then we, like, as part of the parade, also made these small like parade props that we passed out to spectators in Streets Alive to invite them to actually join the parade. So it was kind of a idea in like being active and pulling people in and kind of like help tie into the mission and goal and purpose of Streets Alive too. So let's see if we can get this to play, because this will actually have a way better feeling than I can verbalize. So whoops. And it's actually been a really long time since I've watched that video, and it just brings me a lot of joy. So I think that like the People's Puppet Parade just really helps like bring together these community conversations. There's collaboration, there's creation, there's celebration, and it was really like a cross neighborhood event because, you know, Streets Alive was in South Salt Creek. The workshops were in the South of Downtown building. And we had engaged like a bunch of youth from across Lincoln and people who came in. It was just really like, I mean, this is pretty ragtag, but it was really endearing for like a first go of it. And we did start kind of visioning a second puppet parade for 2020. And, you know, as we all know how events unfolded, haven't moved forward on that yet, but the intention is to continue it on.
Thank you so much for also not just the labor that was put into the parade, but a wonderful presentation that I haven't seen a lot of those pictures or that video before, so it was awesome. And I love how like just both of your and everyone involved in the parade, and Karen, all of your visions are about not just like making a product to show outwardly, but how do we invite people in and like acknowledge that we're all in this community and that we all have contribution, and that yeah, it may be ragtag, but it's going to be beautiful. Also not ragtag. I couldn't do hardly. Yeah, it's amazing that that was paper mache. Let's just say that. Yeah, so that. Excuse me, I think that that's a time we're spending on resident stuff, but feel free to like keep talking about what we just saw and heard from Karen and Ella in the chat or whatever. But I think Nancy, are we move into some neighborhood highlights stuff?
Yeah, so first of all, that was incredible. Ella and Karen, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your stories. These are just like two wonderful examples of awesome community leaders, resident leaders. This is what this work is all about for us. So it just makes me so happy to have you both here to share those stories. And there are so many ways to get involved. So if you're interested, obviously reach out and we can keep this conversation going. So we are going to transition now to another fun thing. Isabel is going to lead us through some neighborhood trivia. And I think we don't know what the prize will be, but there will be a prize for the top winner. That is not a person who works for CIL. So let's just make that clear. We're not trying to game the system in any way. So Isabel, do you want to take it away?
Hi, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes, I love the People's Puppet Parade. It was one of the highlights because since Streets Alive, if everyone's familiar, goes around a neighborhood, it was so cool to like see them walking, and I was like, I know those people. So that was really fun. Let me know can everyone see my screen right now? Just like a head nod or a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, cool. I think this is all I do, Nancy, right? I just put it on the thing.
Yeah, so folks just need to go to that pollev.com, that link up at the top there, and it's my name because it's my account. So making it complicated with the spelling, but you can go there on your phone or on your desktop. And once you get logged in, then we can thanks Vic, then we can get this started.
Yeah, it's right here. I've got my handy dandy pointer. Getting pretty good at using Zoom. So I'll give you all a few seconds to just get logged on. I didn't know you could change pointer colors. Nope, just kidding. That's just for drawing.
If you encounter any technical issues, Nancy is an IT director as well as a night job. Just kidding. No, if you do have any technical issues, please holler. We don't want to get one stuck.
Can people give me like a thumbs up if you are in? Got a couple of thumbs. Ooh, I got to celebrate a clap. Thank you. I'm trying really hard. I love the trivia just because it like, I'm a competitive person and I like to be good at things. Link in the chat. I'll put it in here again. Okay. Yeah, I only know like tons of stuff about like Everett and near South, Gloria, but I still have trouble remembering what neighborhood Dead Man's Run is in. Is that in University Place? Okay, cool. It's hard. We're just in our little bubbles. So I really like these opportunities to get to know people in different neighborhoods. We do have some opportunities to win. Oh, in a corner of Clinton. Did not know that. We have some opportunities to win some swag if you win at trivia. So got a nice t-shirt coming your way. Okay, we'll go get it. We'll go ahead and get started. And here we go. So what you'll see is the question. And then as soon as I turn over to the next screen, that'll show you the answers. And timing and how fast you are does count for points. So here we go. CIL aims to create resident-led investment and positive change in Lincoln's core neighborhoods. What is one area where we do not focus our work? Okay, have at it. Policy advocacy, leadership development, small business loans, neighborhood revitalization, or grassroots community engagement. Was that enough time for everyone to pick your answer? Okay, cool.
Time ran out,
let's
so
see what
you
we
got to
got.
move on.
Okay. Wait, why did it say 0?
Oh no.
Help. It gave us the answer, right? People pick small business loans.
Yeah, it said 100% of respondents. Go to the.
Maybe is it saying that none of us chose or none of us got it wrong? How many CIL folks does it take to figure out a trivia question?
Go to the, Isabel, go to the next slide and it should have a leaderboard. There we go.
All right. Oh, there we go. It must have been a glitch. Amanda. Ooh, and Karen Koopman. I see you. I see you. Okay. Next question. CIL was involved in passing which local policy? This is in our report, I think. The Affordable Housing Coordinated Action Plan, Humane Housing Ordinance 1952, the 13th Street Improvement Project, or all of the above? Time is up. Ooh, it is all of the above. What a journey. I think these were actually like year after year after year, so consecutive, which is awesome. So cool to see what we've been able to do. Ooh, Amanda's rising to the top. Nice, Allie. She's got it. Amanda Barker coming in 5th place. I see you. I see you. All right, next question. CIL organizers had over 15,000 conversations with residents from 2017 to 2020. What issue came up most consistently and has been the main policy focus of CIL? Transportation, food access, access to affordable and adequate housing, or employment? Poll is locked. It is housing. Everyone got it right. Y'all are paying attention. Ooh. Nice. This is gonna get pretty competitive. Yeah, people are getting all of these right. Community builder workshops have gone virtual during the pandemic. Which topic have we not yet discussed during a virtual workshop? Ready? Here we go. Neighborhood safety, recycling sites, how to testify the Nebraska legislature, or how to testify at city council. All right. It is recycling sites. We have not touched those yet. A lot of our recycling sites were taken out of the core neighborhoods, which is causing some issues for folks. So we'll see if anyone's interested in talking about this stuff. Ooh, Vic, sliding in up there. Allie, Coop, Mika, Ella, all right. Next question. Civic Nebraska CIL organizer is focused on which two specific neighborhoods? This will be Kieran. Which neighborhoods? Hartley and University Place, Belmont and Clinton, or Everett and Near South? Nice. Everyone got their answers in. It is Hartley and University Place. Everyone knows what Kieran does for a job, which is great. That's a success, Kieran. Good job. Ooh, Allie. Coming in at the top. Koopman. Nice. Koopman and Mika are tied. Next question. Much of CIL's work and leadership training is based on ABCD. What does ABCD stand for? Asset-based community development, action-based community development, achieving better community development, asset-based community driven. These are very good options. I was just gonna say the alphabet, but that's what I would have written down as an option. Let's check it out. Wow. Everyone's paying attention. Everyone's been here before. Most everyone's been here before, or is just smart independently. Nice. All right, I think we're coming up at the end. CIL partnered with local storyteller Gabriella Parsons in 2019 to highlight individuals in the neighborhoods through a series of portraits and short films. What was the name of this project? Stories of Lincoln, Stories of Community, Stories of Impact, Stories of Vitality. These are all great titles for that. Yeah, this predates you, Kieran. Wonder if you'll get it right. Nice. I'm surprised no one picked Stories of Lincoln. That's the one that I would have went to. Ella! Yay, Gloria and Robert. You're doing great. Which of these groups has CIL partnered with at some point over the course of the project? UNL, College of Journalism and Mass Communications, Lincoln Public Schools Community Learning Centers, Educare of Lincoln, or all of the above? All right, let's check it out. It's all of the above. I had to think about this one. I was like, oh, we did the journalism and mass communications early on because I thought it was going to be a trick question. All right, let's check it out. I can't remember which one is our last question. Was that our last question?
I think there might be one more.
Okay. All right, last chance to redeem yourself. CIL supported 34 neighborhood projects in the first 3 years, which is awesome. That's amazing. Which project did CIL support in the summer of 2018? University Place Farmers Market, Everett Neighborhood Association Adopt a Block, Great Plains Music Festival, or the People's Puppet Parade? This is a tricky one. It's a hard one. Ooh. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I was getting a call. Ooh, that would have been my guess too. But I had to think about it because I thought Everett Neighborhood was also there, but that was the year after. All right, let's see how it shakes out.
I think there's actually one more question.
Oh, okay, awesome.
I can't remember.
A second chance to redeem yourself. Koopman and Amanda's up here again. Wow. That's true. We miss Jose, but we love having Kieran on. All right. CIL hosted or co-hosted 276 events from 2017 to 2020. What was the event where this photo was taken? Ready? Was it the housing listening session, the youth community builder workshop, My City Academy, or a CLC community cafe? Oh, I think this was the last time we were all together before the pandemic hit. Yeah, Ugh. Nice. Everyone got it right. All right, I think that's the last one.
Yes.
Yo,
There we
Coop.
go.
Damn.
Coop came victorious. It looks like we've got Coop. I'm sorry, Amanda, you're not eligible for our prizes.
I understand. All right.
Amanda, you were guessing on these? Wow, this is pretty impressive. Allie, you're not eligible for our prizes, sorry. Neither is Mika or Victory. But Ella, there we go. So thanks everyone for playing. Sorry, I talked over someone.
No, it was me. I was going to say, I've actually gotten second place in a CIL trivia before. So I was wondering if I could defer that to Karen instead, because she is next.
That's amazing. Let's do it. I'm down for that. That's what community is all about, is sharing our joy with each other.
That was so much fun. Isabel, thanks for leading us in that. So we're a little bit behind on time, but I want to take the time for a couple of our organizers to do some highlights of their neighborhoods. So Vic, I think you're first up if you want to just share your slide and talk through some of the things that you want to shout out about your neighborhoods.
Sure thing. I'm such a good screen sharer. And I definitely, here we go. So my Clinton and Belmont, beautiful places. I just was like, let's just make a list. And the thing is, it's interesting because the first phase of this was mostly before I only had about 6 months technically in this phase that we're talking about, 2017 through the middle of 2020. But from this, I just wanted to shout out that the Clinton Neighborhood Organization and CLC folks kept some things going, even as the pandemic derailed a lot of stuff, including some Clinton coffees and cafes, which are slightly different, but just to try to keep neighbors still talking to each other. They got a whole round of newsletters out. Salvation Army was really helpful in getting those distributed. Welcome packets, that was this whole thing that really, I just was so pleased when it got across the finish line during the pandemic. There are a few different little free libraries or pantries, and I think there's one's adding, which is just, yeah, love that. They've been doing teacher appreciation for the Clinton teachers, which is also something logistically that is a bit more difficult because of COVID. I wanted to shout out a moment in a in a meeting, a Clinton neighborhood organization meeting, when a developer came in and was going over, he wanted to get support from the org, and he was going over details for it. And after he finished his whole presentation, the Clinton, just like the board members and people in the meeting, started asking really good questions that really got to the point of like what this guy was planning to develop, that he was very much marketing as affordable, was not affordable. It was not like, and I just love this moment where they didn't, like, it wasn't a, like, we aren't going to even listen to you. We don't want to talk about housing being built at all. Not at all. It was, wait, who are you actually marketing this towards? I thought it was a beautiful moment of just like residents knowing what it is actually like to live in a neighborhood and how much money things cost and how to be careful when you're talking about affordable housing. What is it really? The Bay, just want to shout out, the Bay has been an incredible resource for kids and families throughout the pandemic, even as they've had to slow down or completely stall some of their programming and figure out ways to get around that. Laura Virgil at Belmont Elementary had a music night that I attended virtually that was probably the highlight of my 2020. It was just watching like kindergartners and first graders really amped singing along on mute. They kept on mute. They were so good at not blocking each other, but it was just this beautiful moment of like a lot of families getting together virtually. Yeah, brought me a lot of joy. I got into phone bank with residents over the past year, especially in Belmont, as I've tried to find ways to stay more connected with folks and getting to hear about how much people really care about the small things in their neighborhood, like sidewalks and taking down trees and stuff, street lights, things. And I say small, they aren't actually small. They are large and they add up to that quality of life. But it was cool listening to people notice things that someone driving through wouldn't ever. Or not ever, but would not necessarily. And then also the school neighborhood advisory committee at Lincoln North Star has really pressed on too in hard circumstances, and just there's a lot of awesome ideas from people in Belmont and in other parts of North Lincoln that want to keep cultivating North Lincoln to reach its full potential and be a place that people really admire and are proud of because the people who live there already do. And just generally getting to share ideas, resource, and time. Hi, Max. I like your Rubik's Cube. Yeah, so overall, I just love my neighborhoods that I get to work in. And I wanted to point out really just fun fact that I found that's partly related to Belmont and Clinton, just that sharing ideas and stuff, that the census in the 2020, Lincoln was actually #1 nationally for a city of our size or larger in terms of our self-response rate, which I thought was super cool. I did not know that. And a lot of that has to do with neighborhood groups and small action groups that like got the word out, talked to neighbors, kept things visible. So wanted to shout that out. That was a really rapid run through, but that's me. I will stop.
Kieran, I think you're up.
Oh, sorry, Kieran. I just saw your chat. You wanted me to keep it up.
Yeah, if you could just keep it up, that'd be real quick.
I will. Go right back.
So I work in the Hartley and University Place neighborhoods. So I just have a couple of partners that I shouted out in this slide here. In University Place, the University Place Community Organization, it's their neighborhood association, has kept plugging along throughout 2020. Like I said, I started in August, so I came in about halfway through. And it's difficult, I think, to keep meeting week after week or month after month and plan for events that you don't know might not happen for a year or two. So the optimism there has been very encouraging. Nebraska Wesleyan and Lux Center for the Arts are two huge community partners in the neighborhood who have honestly almost stepped up their investment throughout the pandemic. There's a lot of really cool projects and events in the works between the two of them. And then there are quite a few schools in the UP neighborhood between elementary schools, middle schools, and then a high school. And like Vic said, it's been a really challenging year. We all know that. It's hard not just for the teachers, but also the students. And so the whole school community has done a really great job. And then in the Hartley neighborhood, City Impact is a really important partner. They sit right there on 33rd, right by Peter Pan. They do a lot of great programming. And they have some events coming up as well that'll be really cool for the neighborhood. Hartley Elementary School is the school in the Hartley neighborhood. Also, that logo is like the coolest logo I've ever seen. If you know where I can find that on a t-shirt, please let me know and I'll pay for it, overnight expedited shipping. But it's been a challenging year and there's more changes coming ahead. But the theme of optimism remains. And then the Hartley Neighborhood Association has been plugged in to some current events, some stuff that's been going on, and they've utilized their resources to advocate for what they believe in. So just a few organizations there that I really appreciate. And that's it, Vic. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of work.
That's so great. So we have a little bit of time left. We're going to wrap up at 7:30, but we wanted to make sure that we save some space so you could share your feedback about the report, about everything that we've shared with you today, answer any questions that you might have. I mean, really, we just want to be able to utilize this time to make sure that we're on the right track and to make sure that we're supporting the things that you all want us to support. So feel free to unmute yourself, ask a question, whether it's specific or broad. We'll try to do our best to talk through some of these things together.
And if it's okay, I want to jump back to make sure we get to Amanda's questions. I don't know if Amanda, if you want to unmute and give any more kind of thoughts of context for your questions, but I think they're great.
Oh, I didn't realize my hair was sticking up like that. The things you learn. So I guess what happens in the library a lot is that the library will bring people together. They'll start talking about different ideas, sharing things out, and then it kind of fizzles out after that one group meeting happens. And I'm kind of wondering how you guys kind of share out and build out the shared problems and help people figure out that shared understanding of a problem. And kind of what you're doing now, and then maybe what could be done in the future, which I've done in some other communities, but you might already be doing it. I don't know. So I guess, how do you share the shared understanding the problem so people don't have to do the legwork to research that all out and just do, because probably the hardest part is just understanding the problem and actually realizing that this is what people are going through. This is the user experience that people are going through, and sharing it through story instead of bullet points on a list.
I think, oh, go ahead, Isabel.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I really like that question because it reminds me a lot of like what Renters Together has gone through. And so I think it's totally normal. Like during the pandemic, we had been meeting regularly up until like February last year in 2020. And then the pandemic hit and we were like, hold on, we need to pause and like focus on ourselves for a few months. And so like there was a big gap of time where we didn't meet. And then we started meeting again with like new energy, and we were like, okay, we know the legislative session is coming up. What can we do now? Or like, we know that the city's putting forward their affordable housing coordinated action plan. Like, how can we be involved in that process? And so that kind of gets into like the learning part. And I think that one thing that Renters Together is really good at doing is like sharing that information with each other and like always welcoming new people and like giving them the step-by-step, because we can get so lost in like our like verbiage and like the different like acronyms that we use, but everyone is really comfortable with like sharing that knowledge. And also like one way that I learn really well is to explain a concept to someone else, and so it helps people ingrain that. And then the last thing that I'll mention about them that I think is really interesting is that at different times we've invited different people to our meetings, and I'm really happy that our elected officials and like decision makers and stuff in Lincoln are super accessible. So we've had people from like urban development come to a meeting and be like, okay, tell us about TIFF. What is TIFF? And we've had even just like finding people who are really passionate about co-op housing, and having that person come in and being like, here's a presentation on co-op housing, or here's a presentation on community land trusts. And lots of people are like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, yeah, that's awesome, cool. So like just finding your experts, or I think that one thing that we get stuck on is that like we feel like we have to have a big list or a big thing to accomplish as the result of every meeting. But like the result of your meeting could just be that people are learning more, but then leaving with clear action steps like, what is Minneapolis doing about inclusionary zoning? And then that person will come with that information the next time, which is super, like, that's their only task to do, is breaking down inclusionary zoning in Minneapolis. So I don't know if any of that was helpful, but yeah, just being not afraid to like take time for yourself. And if people don't have the energy, then they just don't have the energy. But those small accomplishable steps are what get you to like this massive like effort that builds over time.
And
I was going to add, I was going to let Ella, you mentioned you had stuff to share too. And I think that the thought that also I think probably connects to what Ella can share about is that what you mentioned at the end there, Amanda, about story, I like, people can do a lot of surveys to try to understand the problem and then try and like know what the problem is and then decipher for other people. I think surveys can be very helpful. And that may be something that you do like in the library world, or just in a lot of worlds, we do a lot of surveys. But I think one story taken and told directly to the people who are trying to figure out problems or work on it, like I am a full fan that will be so much more impactful than dissecting it all, and then paired with the understanding that like it's an ongoing thing to understand problems that aren't your own. If it's not your own problem, like it is really difficult, and it's okay. It's better to hold grace for yourself that you're going to have a journey in understanding it than expect that you're going to know it. Because I think that's, yeah, the power of having resident led, directly impacted folks at the forefront in the project. And Ella, yeah, if you want to speak to that, I would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I guess I was going to kind of tie that in by saying like I do appreciate how like CIL like you put action behind the value of things being resident led, and it shows. And I think in part of that it's like residents already know what the problems are. So it's by listening and then kind of help bringing that together. And yeah, of course, we all have to like come together with a shared and common understanding and language. And that's probably the tricky part, I'm assuming, not that that's my piece in all of this. But I just wanted to say, for example, that like something I think is pretty incredible about the mini grants is that the application is super accessible. It's not very intimidating, and like it like feels empowering to fill something out and then to be reached out to and say, hey, we like your idea and we trust you, and we're just going to give you this money up front, and so that you don't have to put your own funds into it and ask for reimbursement. And we want to support you and see you like see this through is huge. And that's not a common model for grants by any means. And I guess like as a tiny confession, I actually did not write any of the grant for the People's Puppet Parade because I'm like a self-professed grump around bureaucracy. So, but I didn't even realize that it was like so approachable and so easy to engage with. So like I sat and did design work while my collaborators like worked on the grant together. but got written in as like a co-grantee on the project. But I did go around the second time and applied for a different project. And I just want to, say, like, even for someone who gets very grumpy about those sort of things, I just really see the value in that, and how it shows that there's opening up that trust to neighbors up front just creates so much room and space for things to happen. And so I just wanted to give some props to that.
I wanted to tag team off Ella that I haven't done a community grant, but you guys showing up at our meeting does make a difference, and you don't always hear about it. So everybody, like at the beginning of this meeting, everybody knows my stucco's falling off my house. But other people aren't like share their problems with the world. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get within a month of here's a problem, how do we fix it? And I'll remember, oh, Mika said this, call them, or Vic said that, call them. And all those little tidbits they do. I can't remember what all you guys did on a trivia quiz, but all those little community resources actually do stick in my head. And I at least have somebody that I can direct them to on who to call, or we get a Facebook message from our Facebook page, and I at least have some resources up my sleeve that can say, okay, try here first, then here, then here, then here. So thanks.
And can I just say, we were the recipient of a mini grant. This is our second one, and Friday we will be providing 150 meals from the Connection Point Pantry and 63 spring/Easter baskets. So, and because I'm a smart shopper and pull in all of my resources, we are also providing 50 meals to Brock's Boutique on Saturday. So thank you. And Vic, I'm sorry you can't help.
I can't wait until Karen has a YouTube channel. It just is smart shopping and just all the other amazing stuff. Yeah, it could be multifaceted.
It could be.
Well, we are at 7:30, and so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will post this on our virtual platform so you can share it out with anyone who you think might benefit from this, and please share the report with different folks. And we just want to hear all of the things. We want to answer all your questions. We want to hear all of your feedback. So there is a link to our website where you can find all of our team members. You can reach out to us if you have specific questions about a neighborhood, but please stay in touch, stay in contact, and we've got to do this work together. We will continue to do this work together. We can't do this without all of you, and we are just here to support everything. Yeah, so thank you everyone so much for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, y'all.